Could the Giants be able to get one of these star pitchers on a prove-it deal this upcoming season? Let's talk about it right here on Locked On Giants.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily San Francisco Giants podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, y'all? I'm Alan Stiles. Welcome to Locked On Giants, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Now, thanks to you, the #1 sports podcast network. On the show, we provide daily episodes Monday through Friday, talking about the San Francisco Giants in a way that combines passion, analytics with the eye test, and a little bit of fun. I'm from the Bay Area, but I live in Sacramento now, and I host a show on Sacktown Sports 1140, as well as emceeing Sacramento Rivercast games. All in all, I'm lucky enough to cover a team I've been a fan of all my life. Today, we are talking about whether or not the Giants could get Tatsuya Imai or even some of these other pitchers on a prove-it deal because of how the market is changing. We also discussed some of the underrated free agents that are still available. And last but not least, I saw this somewhere and I hadn't even initially thought about it, but could Bryce Eldridge start the season in AAA? Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com to place your NFL live bets all season long. So first and foremost, obviously, it is Christmas Eve. Merry Christmas Eve and Merry Christmas to everyone. If you are listening to this or watching this on your day off, I appreciate you. If you are watching this and you are having to work on Christmas Eve and or Christmas, I really appreciate you. I really appreciate all of you, but this one goes out to those that are not going to be able to have the day off and take that time. So, hopefully it goes fast for you and we'll be back on Friday. But before we get there, let's start this thing off on the right foot here. I was thinking about this once again, and all of the different reports that have come out about Tatsuya Imai. You have Murakami signing on a 2-year deal. There's something going on with these KBO players this season. I think that, and we've seen them get paid a lot of money before by the Dodgers. Sometimes it's worked, sometimes it hasn't, and just in general. And for some reason, maybe it is because of that L word that I keep talking about that might be looming at the end of this upcoming season. The teams are just weary to spend that type of cash, and I think maybe spending that type of cash on someone that doesn't have Major League Baseball experience specifically is scaring some of them away. So I'm starting to think, look, if everybody is saying they're out on Tatsuya Imai, the price tag is definitely not going to look the same. This is the newest report as it pertains to the New York Yankees, right? So Jack Curry of Yes Network reported yesterday evening that he doesn't believe Imai will end up in the Bronx. And here's the quote: "The vibe between Imai and the Yankees does not exist," Curry said on Yes Network's Hot Stove. Instead, Ryan Yarbrough was mentioned as a potential option to help fill the void in the starting rotation created by several injuries the team has encountered. That's another team that apparently is saying, yeah, we're not paying Tatsuya Imai that money. We're just not going to do it. And you know what else is funny is I haven't heard anybody talk about Ranger Suarez. I haven't heard anybody talk about Ranger Suarez. And honestly, I haven't heard a ton of people talk about Framber Valdez. I really haven't. I know early on the Giants had met with him, or there was some type of connection conversation. I believe the Chronicle reported, but these pitchers that are in line for these big price tags, a lot of them haven't moved yet, or I guess I should say the biggest ones haven't moved yet. And there's maybe a reason for that. It's a similar thing that we've been talking about, just with what did the Giants know and could they be actually approaching this the right way? But maybe they were right to hold off on some of these things, because, I mean, if you're asking me, based on where the market lies right now, the Blue Jays, if Tatsuya Imai, if his price tag drops and you still haven't seen anybody sign Ranger Suarez or Framber Valdez, they could be looking around saying, well, why did we pay this money for Cody Ponce, which is a different version of a gamble. Now, this is the other side of it before everybody gets so excited and says, Alan said that the price tag is going to drop on Tatsuya Imai and there might be a prove-it deal. hold on that, because here's the other part of this. In these negotiations, it's all supply and demand. So what's going to happen right now, and what seems to be happening right now, is all these teams are going to say, we're not paying Tatsuya Imai that money. We're not going to do it. We're not going to do it. So the agent and his camp are going to say, okay, well, here's a new price tag. And then what's going to happen? All these teams are going to come back in and say, okay, we're good at this price tag. And then the agent will say, well, if all of you are good at this price tag, then we're going to move it back up to an area closer to where it was. So I don't think it's going to be that the price tag is going to drop and only the Giants are going to be interested. Once you drop that price tag, if you've ever sold anything on any of these reselling sites, once you drop that price tag because you want more interest, then once the price tag drops, you're going to get more interest. So then what do? You drive the price back up. Now, it might not get as high up to where it was previously, but it's not going to sell from that initial drop unless there's just not a lot of suitors, or unless Imai just wants it to be over, or unless there's a specific team that he wants to go to. If the price tag drops and the Giants say, okay, we feel comfortable at that number, but so do the Phillies as well, but he says, I want to face the Dodgers as much as possible, and my buddy's on the Dodgers, I'm going to go to the Giants, and I like what the Giants got going on. So those are the kind of ins and outs and how this thing could change. So it's not over yet, but I do think there's some hope that the price tag will drop a little bit and maybe the Giants feel a little bit more comfortable. That just means that there's going to be other suitors that are comfortable as well. So it makes things a little bit more clear, but it also convolutes them because there will be more interest. But, the same thing could go for Framber Valdez. He's a guy that, and like I said, Ranger Suarez, we really haven't heard that much about. But Framber Valdez, to me, the fact that he's not signed yet, I do wonder how some of those meetings went. We've discussed it time and time again, the whole crossing up with the catcher. How did he react when that was probably brought up? Do teams not really like his answer? Things like that. So I'm not trying to assume anything. All I know is that the dude can pitch, and he didn't have the best end of his season. But, obviously he's one of the best pitchers in the league. Maybe this is just a time where teams don't want to give that type of money to a pitcher. And, you could say if you're the Phillies, we feel safer giving it to Josh Schwarber than a pitcher because, it just is less of a risk. Maybe that's how they feel. So, yeah, it's something that could happen. I'm not necessarily putting all my eggs in that basket that you're going to get a situation where it's a prove it deal. It's going to drop back down. And once it drops down, if there's still no interest, maybe there's a chance of a prove it deal. But my thought process is, okay, based on whatever the projection was, 5 years. Yeah. And a prove it deal, that doesn't just have to be 1 year, right? That could be 2. I think a 3 is just a normal contract. It's just a shorter contract, but that could be 2. So maybe the Giants are able to get him on a 2-year deal, exactly what's happening with Murakami. So, that's kind of what we're looking to figure out here. And yeah, we'll see how that all turns out. On the other side, underrated available free agents. Let's talk about it right here on Locked On Giants. NFL Sundays move fast. One big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift. A receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment. Live spreads and money lines adjust instantly. Player props update as guys heat up. You can bet next touchdown scores, drive results, totals, and more. It keeps you locked into every snap, every drive, every possibility. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. Next, we have a list I came across on Bleacher Report of underrated free agents, and I already know what a lot of the comments are going to say. It's going to be, or they're going to be about the Giants bargain bin, and I thought Farhan was gone. Hey, it's not me. right? This is the reality of what the Giants seem to be doing. So I figured the least I could do is give a Christmas wish list of underrated free agents. Not to say that I want all these free agents, but some of these names were at the very least intriguing, right? If this is the direction that the Giants are going to go. So this is from Bleacher Report, and some of the names, hit different than others from Kerry Miller of Bleacher Report. Let's start here with somebody that did play for the Smurfs, but he won for the Smurfs. And, when he's on, he's very, very talented. Michael Kopech. In 2025, he only pitched 11 innings with a 2.45 ERA. In his career stats, he's got a 4.14 ERA and a 1.33 whip. So this is the write-up for Michael Kopech. This year was injury plagued for Michael Kopech. He missed the first 2 months of the season with arm inflammation. He came back in early June and tossed 7 scoreless innings with 5 holds across 8 relief outings. But he didn't even make it to the end of June before landing back on the IL with a torn meniscus. He returned in early September, but was shut down again less than 3 weeks later with knee inflammation. All told, though, from the time the Dodgers acquired him at the 2024 trade deadline through to the end of this past season, Kopech made 48 appearances with a 1.84 ERA, 17 holds, 5 wins, 6 saves, and no blown saves or losses. Pretty decent run for a free agent who hasn't even turned 30. Yet, in a market where relievers have been flying off the shelf in droves, he seems to be a little out of sight, out of mind in light of his minimal availability in 2025. He could be a great late inning option for a contender, as he has been over the past 2 seasons. So we know that the Giants have made, some moves for their pitching staff, but we also know that the possible closer that they did add, he's not going to be ready, I think until the summer. So the Giants are kind of doing it by committee a little bit. And we knew that was going to be the case with how things have been. They weren't going to be in on Edwin Diaz. That might be the only guy. I mean, I'm sure there was a report somewhere, but that might be the only guy that the Giants never checked in on. And obviously he already went to the Dodgers, but even when he was available. So I like this one. That's why I read it off first. I do think it might be worth it because we're not talking about a guy coming back from injury to be a starter. And I do think that makes a difference. When you're talking about a late relief guy, all you got to do is get 3 outs, maybe 6, maybe 5, maybe 4. I feel more comfortable taking a chance on that than I do somebody that's had a bunch of injury history and now you are trying to make them a starter. So that's the first guy that I came across that I thought was at least interesting for the Giants to maybe kick the tires on. The next guy, and we've talked about him before, Zach Eflin. He was the opening day starter for the Orioles, and the Orioles had an awful season after really building a bunch of momentum a couple years in a row. And it says he started the year with 3 consecutive quality starts, but subsequently landed on the IL for more than a month with a lat strain. He made just 11 more starts before undergoing season-ending back surgery in mid-August. At the time of the surgery, the hope was he would be back for a full normal spring training. Thus far, there has been no indication the timeline has changed. So why has everyone seemingly forgotten about a guy who got Cy Young votes in 2023 and had a 3.54 ERA and 59 starts between 2023 and 2024? Zach Gallen and Zach Littell are regarded as top 10 options among the remaining crop of free agents, but not this Zach, who had a sub 380 FIP in each season from 2020 to 2024. Maybe the injury history has become too much for a team to look past, or maybe his market will heat up once he's further removed from the surgery and can show teams that he's good to go. But if this recent ace signs for number 4 starter type money on a 1-year deal, what a steal that could be. So those are the 2 pitchers. Now that's literally what I just talked about and why I didn't have him I didn't read his name first because that is a starter situation coming off of injury, and he's on a specific timeline. So yeah, interesting, but the Giants already kind of have their 4 guy in Adrian Hauser, and I wouldn't mind adding him, but I'd rather pay a little bit more maybe for the bullpen than go in that direction, because you do have all those young guys that you do want to develop. You do want to develop them. I know I make jokes about some of the young starters and young pitchers that the Giants have thrown out there, but you do want to develop at least 1 or 2 of them. That would be the hope. A couple of the other names here. This is a throwback, and if you watch college baseball like I do, this name is going to ring a bell. Nick Madrigal. They say he's a poor man's Luis Arias. Madrigal has always been a great contact hitter between college and the minors. He struck out just 70 times and more than 1,500 trips to the plate. A fractured hand in 2024 and a fractured shoulder in 2025 have derailed his career. However, he's still only 28 years old, and he could be a versatile backup. Yeah, I don't know if there's anything left. I know he's only 28, but I don't know if there's anything left in the tank for him to be a starter anywhere. He's really going in the different direction of the launch angle, things like that. To me, the Giants may have some interest, but you have Christian Koss already. And if they do add somebody and that moves Casey Schmidt to the bench, if they hold on to Casey Schmidt, plus the guys in the minors, honestly, there are guys on the River Cats right now, and maybe even in AA, I'd rather just give a chance to than Nick Madrigal. No disrespect, but I just don't think he's got a really high ceiling. I'd be much more interested in Nick Madrigal if Christian Koss wasn't on the team. That would be what I have to say to that. And last but not least, José Urquidy. He missed half of the 2023 season to a shoulder injury, as well as all of 2024 and basically all of 2025. This sounds really bad now that I'm reading all these out loud. When I was reading them to myself, they didn't sound as bad. To Tommy John surgery. But could Urquidy be this year's version of 2024 Luis Severino, finally getting healthy and reharnessing his old form? He's still only 30 and had a 3.74 ERA through his first 4 years in the majors. He has to at least be worth a flyer to someone. Yeah, I mean, and the reason for these names is not to take a flyer on all of them. You can't create a lineup or a rotation with all these guys. It's just, if you're the Giants, do you think that somebody like that could help you more than a Max Scherzer? There's an argument there. Than some of the other guys that you're looking at, than Justin Verlander. Now, I know these guys are healthy. They're just older than some of the guys that you do have and you're planning on developing. Maybe you sign them and you say, hey, maybe you start from the bullpen, right? And if it looks like you're figuring things out, we can try you out as an opener. You just take it slow with these guys. If it feels like you want some type of safety, right? Safety net, if the young guys or even Scherzer at his age or whoever, isn't hacking it or whatever the case may be. So you look at this and you take one of these guys. You don't take all 3 and say, all right, cool, our rotation is lined up. You don't do that. But you can look at this and say, hey, I do like this piece, or, going back to Kopech, which I would feel the most safe about. Hey, let's see if you still got it. Can you stay healthy? We're going to pay you a salary and a contract that reflects the point that you couldn't stay healthy. So we're not going to give you a huge commitment, but we're going to give you a commitment and see what you can do, especially because that would give the Giants 2 options at that late inning closer position to have. One would be later in the season, but even initially, as the season goes through, I mean, the Giants ended up looking for everybody. I don't got to bring up Ryan Walker again. So those are the options that the Giants could have. And by the way, Jason Foley, that was the pitcher that the Giants signed. That's not going to be ready to start the season, but between him and Michael Kopech, maybe you can figure out who your closer is. Maybe you're able to have both, and Kopech is your setup man in the 8th inning, and then you bring in Jason Foley. So yeah, those are some of the things that you can do. One more segment with you on this Christmas Eve. When we return, Could Bryce Eldridge start out in AAA? Did I just say that out loud? More Locked On Giants coming up. Thank you for making Locked On Giants your first listen of the day. And thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. You already live your team every day. Now take it up a level and go ad-free. Join the Everydayer Club today and get Locked On Giants with no interruptions, member-only Discord access, and more. All for just $5 a month or $50 a year. Go to lockedonsfgiants.supercast.com or check the link in the show notes to learn more. If you're a true diehard Giants fan, the Everydayer All Access tier is built for you. You'll get one-on-one text access with me, all access episodes, an exclusive newsletter, and a 15% discount to the Locked On merch store. Head to lockedonsfgiants.supercast.com to join the Everydayer Club and unlock all access. You can also find the link in the show notes. One more segment with you on this rainy Christmas Eve, at least where I'm located. It's a bit rainy. And I came across this thought, not by myself. I was, just looking around, seeing if there were any other rumors that were being talked about, any new stories. And Around the Foghorn wrote an article, but it was actually about bringing in another first baseman, DH, something like that. So, of course, when I first saw it, I thought, why would anybody do that? Or why would the Giants do that? They have plenty at first base. Then, as I'm reading through, they say if his brief debut last September was any indication, it may be in Eldridge's best interest to gain a little more experience playing every day at the AAA level at first. If the front office is at all worried that they can't count on him for big league reps in April and May, they should look to make an external addition to share time at first base and DH with Rafael Devers. That is something I didn't think about at all. And Dominic Smith was a name that a lot of people did want to bring back. I was in the camp of he's earned a better opportunity than the Giants. So you just have him and you try to deal him once Bryce is ready, how that works. Bryce absolutely mashed at the AAA level. I don't know, man. It's a tough spot. I'm just not really seeing how you could send Bryce back to Sacramento. And a lot of it probably has to do with how things look at spring training, right? If he's absolutely mashing at spring training, this isn't a question. If he struggles a little bit, I guess anything is possible. But I'm looking here, he did get to Sacramento in 2025. So he did make a lot of jumps in 2025. In 2025, he played on 3 teams, man. He played on 3 teams. So, to go from Richmond to Sacramento to the big leagues, it is a big jump. So here are his stats from Sacramento, just as a reminder: 66 games, 286 plate appearances. He had 63 hits. He had 18 home runs. He had 63 RBIs. He had 88 strikeouts, which I think is maybe a reason, right? But he's a power guy. He hit 249. That was his batting average. 322 is on base percentage. 514 is slugging. That's good for 836 OPS. So, for the most part, he was a baller. A little bit on the high end when it comes to strikeouts, but that's what somebody like that is kind of going to do. Does look like there are holes in his swing, but I think the tough part is, does playing in Sacramento help get rid of that? You know what I mean? He's already proven that he can hit, and I guess, he could strike out less in Sacramento, but I don't know, man. I'm looking here. What he did in the majors, of course, was not as pretty, but, a lot of people said, well, if he hit this ball in a different park and if he did this or that, okay, that's cool, but he didn't. So 37 plate appearances, 28 at-bats. He did not get that first major league home run. He did have 2 doubles. He had 3 hits in those 28 at-bats. He had 4 RBIs, 7 walks, 13 strikeouts. His batting average was 107. 297 was his on-base percentage, and his slugging was 179. I've never actually seen a slugging percentage that low. I haven't. I know, very small sample size. I just never seen it before. And a 4.76 OPS. All right. So it wasn't great. I know a lot of us were hanging on to, well, if he hit that ball in a different park and he hit it in Arizona, and if he hit it in San Francisco, but if he hit it not in San Francisco, and all of them would have been home runs in Colorado. So I get it. And I kind of feel the same way, but it doesn't matter to me, to be completely honest with you. That dude has to start in the big leagues. That's what I would do. Right? Unless it looks terrible in spring training, that dude has to start in the big leagues, because you're going to bring on, it's just kind of ridiculous to me to bring on another first baseman. I wouldn't even do it. I'd run, somebody that's already on the team, just DH them. Honestly, I would rather see, if you have that log jam in right field and you're trying to figure out what you're going to do, if you don't pay for a right fielder, I would just run whoever is not playing right. Right. I would run Grant McCray out there. I would run Drew Gilbert out there at DH. That's what I would do, and let Rafi Devers just play first. Honestly, like, I'm not going to try to sign someone for the certain amount of time, and then you're kind of messing with Bryce's head again, saying you're not ready, even though we brought you up. And he said himself that he's ready. Right. So it's not like he's got the personality where he's not sure. I'm sure that man don't want to go back to Sacramento or come back out here to Sacramento. Because what's so funny, when you're at River Cats games, whoever gets sent back down, they do not wear the River Cats gear. They do not. Luis Matos, when he would get sent down, he would be wearing his Giants helmet and all of his Giants gear, right, when he'd go up to bat. They're not trying to be in Sacramento. Tyler Fitzgerald would do the same thing. Didn't necessarily help him, but Tyler Fitzgerald would do the same thing. They're not trying to be in Sacramento, right? No disrespect to the River Cats, but once you get to the show, you dress, what your parents always tell you, dress for the job you want. So I don't think Bryce Eldridge would want to go back down, and I think that's a big part of it. If he said, yeah, maybe I do need some more time. No, I don't think Bryce Eldridge would want to do this at all. I think that it would be really hard to find somebody where it makes sense. And if you do have to do this, I would just run out somebody that's already on the roster at DH. Just give somebody consistent ABs, and maybe they get hot and figure some things out, and you find a diamond in the rough. That's what I would do. I would not. I can't even fathom bringing in another first baseman. Honestly, I can't. And that's not to say that I want Rafi Devers playing every day, but it is first base. He's not playing center field or even third base anymore. And personally, I just feel like you could find somebody else to play first. Well, I mean, Bryce Eldridge, right? But if you do start him in Sacramento, I'm just, no disrespect to the position, but I'm just of the mindset you could find somebody, even somebody else from AAA that you have. So I hadn't thought about that at all, and I would not bring anybody else in. I just don't know what that value would be. I mean, it's a very, and honestly, there's some names, not to annoy anyone, but going back to the first base options, when I was looking at this bargain, I'm looking at Rhys Hoskins. He's actually a local guy. That, to me, might not be crazy, but Rhys Hoskins, I don't think he's going to be as cheap as some of these other names. If Rhys Hoskins is going to take a hometown discount, then I'd be interested in doing that, maybe. But again, you don't want to create another logjam, because Rhys Hoskins has done some things in this league. What if Rhys Hoskins gets hot and all of a sudden Bryce is stuck in AAA again and he's mashing in AAA? So I don't know. I'm more of that type. I think, we took swimming lessons growing up, but you do kind of get thrown in the pool, and at the very end, you got to swim to the bottom, right, to pass the pool class and grab that the pool toy that sinks all the way, the stick that sinks all the way to the bottom. So I just want Bryce Eldridge to do that. I don't want to mess around. I don't want the floaties on anymore. I don't want the training wheels. Let's just go get it, man. Let's just go get it. So that's where I'm at with it. Everyone have a very Merry Christmas, and just enjoy your time with your family. Thank you for listening to Locked On Giants. Thank you for watching Locked On Giants. Be sure to follow me on social media at @_Styles Files, Styles with an I. We will be taking the day off tomorrow, but we'll be back on Friday. Okay. So we'll be back on Friday. I'm not sure if anything would have happened by then. That would be a Christmas miracle for sure. But unless it's somebody on that trusty Bleacher Report underrated free agents list. So not sure what's going to happen there, but we still have a ton for you as we work through all the rumors and different buzz that's going on in Major League Baseball, specifically with your San Francisco Giants. Thank you for tuning in to today's show. Make sure you subscribe and follow so you get all the latest episodes. If you need a very last minute holiday gift, or someone keeps asking you what you want, make it easy. Ask for the Everydayer Club. Ad-free episodes of this show, exclusive Discord server access, and more. Subscriptions can be gifted through lockedonsfgiants.supercast.com. For those of you on video, we send you to the first ever 24/7 national Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. On audio, make sure you make your second listen Locked On MLB. Again, everyone enjoy your time with your family. The holidays are great. I know they also can be a tough time for a lot of people as well. So I appreciate any time that you spend to listen to me, to watch me. It's been a great year. Even though I didn't start at the beginning of the year, you never know how things can change. So I really appreciate you. We'll talk to you on Friday. Until then, peace.